The boy appeared in the corral with his eyes lowered and his clothes covered in dust, holding the cowboy's hand as if it were his last hope. He whispered, "My mother can't walk anymore." The cowboy stopped, took a deep breath, and replied with something that made his hands tremble, and when the other workers heard it, no one could say a single word. Subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and comment where in the world you're watching from, because now I'm going to tell you everything. The dust from the dry field stuck in Tommy Carter's throat. He stood at the crooked window, a dish towel in his hands, and watched the man on the horse. The man was far away, a dark shape moving across the yellow grass under the huge Montana sky. Tommy's heart started to beat very fast. "Tommy?" a soft voice called from the other room. "Is everything okay?" "Yes, Mom," Tommy said, his voice higher than he wanted it to be. "Just looking at the sky." He was not looking at the sky. He was looking at Jake Ryder. Jake Ryder owned all the land he could see, including the patch of dirt their little shack sat on. Tommy had never spoken to him. The rancher was a serious, quiet man who mostly kept to himself. But Tommy had run out of all other choices. His mother, Mary, was asleep now. He had just helped her drink some water and taken away the empty soup bowl. She was so thin under the blankets. She had not stood up in 2 weeks. The fear in Tommy's stomach was a cold, heavy stone. They had no money for a doctor. They had no money for anything. The last of the food was in the cupboard, and it was not much. He watched Jake Ryder turn his horse, beginning to ride along the fence line. If Tommy did not go now, he would not get another chance for days. He did not let himself think. Thinking meant feeling scared. Thinking meant hearing his mother's painful breaths from the other room. He dropped the towel, pushed open the squeaky door, and ran. The rough ground hurt his feet through his worn-out shoes. He pumped his arms, his breath coming in short gasps. The field seemed to stretch on forever. The horse and rider were getting farther away. "Mr. Ryder!" he tried to yell, but it came out as a scratchy whisper. He ran harder. "Mr. Ryder!" The man on the horse heard something. He slowed his horse and turned in the saddle. Tommy kept running, his lungs burning. He finally reached the fence, grabbing the wooden post to stop himself. He bent over, trying to catch his breath. When he looked up, Jake Ryder was right there, sitting tall on his big horse. He looked down at Tommy, his face shaded by his hat. He did not smile. "What's the trouble, son?" Jake asked. His voice was low and dry like the wind. Tommy's mouth was too dry to speak. All his words were gone. He just stared up at the man, his blue eyes wide with panic. This was a mistake. He should not have come. "Well," Jake said. He wasn't mean, but he wasn't gentle either. The words burst out of Tommy. They were not the words he had practiced. They were the truest, most terrible words he knew. He reached up, his small, dirty hand closing around Jake's wrist where it held the reins. He whispered it. "My mom can't walk anymore." He said it like a secret, like a confession of something he had done wrong. He looked down at the dirt, waiting for the man to pull his hand away, to tell him to get off his property. Jake Ryder was silent for a long time. Tommy could hear the horse breathing. He finally dared to look up. Jake was looking toward the distant shack. Then he looked back at Tommy. He looked at the boy's too big shirt, his messy hair, the fear etched on his young face. Jake's own eyes changed. The sternness in them softened, replaced by something else, something like recognition. He straightened up in the saddle. He gently pulled his wrist from Tommy's grasp, but it was not a rejection. He turned his horse toward the main ranch buildings, visible a half-mile away. "Come on," Jake said, not looking back. "What?" Tommy asked, confused. "I said, come on, you're walking too slow. Get up here." Jake reached down a strong arm. Tommy, his mind empty of all thought, took it. In one easy pull, Jake lifted him and set him on the horse behind the saddle. "Hold on to my coat," Jake said. Tommy gripped the rough denim. The horse began to move, its walk smooth and powerful. Tommy had never been on a horse before. He felt high up and shaky, but also, for the first time in years, like he was not alone. They rode to the big ranch house. A few men in cowboy hats were working near the barn. They stopped to watch their boss ride in with a ragged boy on the back of his horse. Jake stopped in front of them. He swung down from the horse and then helped Tommy down. Tommy stood there, feeling small under the eyes of the men. Jake's voice, when he spoke, was loud and clear. It was a voice used to being heard. Listen up, Jake said to his men. This is Tommy Carter. His mother is Mary. They live in the old line shack on the north edge. She is sick. He is 13 years old. Jake put a heavy hand on Tommy's thin shoulder. The weight of it felt solid, like an anchor. They are moving into the house, today, right now. They will have the 2 rooms upstairs. They will have food. They will have what they need. He looked at each of his men, one after the other. You will treat them with respect. They are not alone anymore. Is that understood? The men nodded. Yes, boss, one of them said. Jake looked down at Tommy. Go get your mother. Bring her clothes, any medicine. Bring anything you want to keep. Hank and Leroy will drive you in the truck and help you carry. Tommy just stared. He could not make his brain work. Move into the big house? The clean, warm, strong house with the solid roof? You mean, live here? Tommy whispered. Yes, Jake said, his voice back to its normal low tone. Live here. A feeling flooded Tommy's chest. It was so big and warm it scared him. It was hope. It was the feeling of a heavy load, one he had carried for so long he forgot it was there, finally being lifted by someone else's strong hands. He did not know what to say, so he just nodded, his eyes shining with tears he refused to let fall. Thank you, he managed to say. Go on, Jake said, giving him a little nudge toward the waiting truck. Don't keep your mother waiting. Tommy ran to the truck. He ran to bring his mother home. The room was quiet. Tommy lay in a real bed under a thick quilt. He could not sleep. The mattress was soft. The pillow smelled clean. Through the window, he could see the dark shape of the barn instead of the empty field. It felt strange. It felt safe. A soft knock came at his door. Come in, Tommy whispered. The door opened. It was his mother, Mary. She was in her wheelchair. Jake had carried her up the stairs himself that afternoon. One of the ranch hands, Leroy, had brought the old chair from the shack. Can't sleep either, Mary asked. Her voice was like paper, but she was smiling a little. No, Tommy said. He sat up. Is your room okay? Is the bed all right? My room is perfect, sweetheart. Better than perfect. She wheeled herself closer to his bed. I just wanted to see you, in a real room, with a door that closes tight. Tommy looked at his hands on the quilt. He's being so nice. Why is he being so nice? Some people are just good, Tommy. It's a rare thing, but it's real. It doesn't feel real, Tommy said. He was waiting to wake up. He was waiting for Jake to change his mind. It is, Mary said firmly. She reached out and took his hand. Her skin was thin and cool. Seeing you here, safe, it makes me brave. Brave enough to tell you something I should have told you a long time ago. Tommy looked at her. Her bright blue eyes were serious. Tell me what? Mary reached into the pocket of her robe. She pulled out a folded piece of paper, old and soft at the creases. She handed it to him. What is this? Tommy asked, opening it carefully. It's a deed, a paper that says who owns a piece of land, our land, the land where the shack is. Tommy read the words slowly. He saw his mother's name, Mary Elizabeth Carter. He saw a description of the land. But I thought we lived on Mr. Ryder's ranch. We do, Mary said. But our little piece with the shack and the old well, it's mine. Your father bought it for me a long, long time ago, before the big ranch grew around it. Jake Ryder's land goes right up to the edge of it, but that piece is ours. Tommy stared at the paper. He did not know what to feel. They owned something. It was a thing he did not know they had. There's more, Mary said softly. She pulled out 2 envelopes from her other pocket. They were newer, crisp. She handed them to Tommy. He took them. The return address said Silas Green, Billings, Montana. He pulled out the letters and read them under the light of the bedside lamp. The first letter was polite. It talked about mineral rights and potential. It offered money for the land. The second letter, dated just 2 weeks ago, was clearer. The offer was higher. The words were firmer. He wants to buy it? Tommy asked. He does. He thinks there might be something valuable under the ground, metals or minerals. He is offering a lot of money, Tommy. How much money? Tommy whispered. Mary told him. The number was so big it did not seem real. Tommy's head spun. That kind of money could pay for doctors, for medicine, for a little house in town where his mother would not have to climb stairs. It could pay for everything. Why didn't you tell me? he asked, his voice tight. Because I was scared, Mary said simply. I was sick and scared. I thought if we sold it, we'd have money but no place to go. And I thought it was the last thing your father gave me. Letting it go felt like losing him again. She paused, looking at his face. But now we are here. We are safe. Jake has given us a place, so now the choice is different. It's not about fear anymore. It's about what is smart. What is best for you. Tommy looked from the old, fragile deed to the new, sharp letters. The past and the future were right there in his hands. The money could help you, Tommy said. It could, Mary nodded. But this land is part of you too. Your father walked that land. It's your history. And now Jake has brought us into his home. Selling that land to a stranger might not feel right to him. Downstairs, they heard the front door open and close. They heard Jake's heavy boots on the floor, then the sound of a kettle being filled in the kitchen. He was making tea, something he did every night. What should we do? Tommy asked, feeling younger than his 13 years. I don't know yet, Mary said. She squeezed his hand. But for the first time, we can think about it without being afraid of the wind blowing through the walls. We can think about it together. That's a gift. She wheeled herself back toward the door. Try to sleep, my sweet boy. Your load is lighter tonight. Let it be lighter. She left, closing the door quietly behind her. Tommy put the deed and the letters on the nightstand. He lay back down. The room was warm and solid, but his mind was not quiet. Before, his only choice was to survive the next day. Now, he had a different choice, a big choice. Money for a future or land from the past. The safe, quiet house around him felt different now. It was not just shelter. It was the place where he would have to decide. He stared at the ceiling, listening to the faint sound of Jake moving in the kitchen below, and for the first time, the weight he felt was not of work, but of a secret waiting to be told. The secret of the land sat in Tommy's drawer for 3 days. He thought about it while he helped his mother down to breakfast. He thought about it while he watched Jake fix a broken hinge on the barn door, his movements strong and sure. Jake was not a talker. He asked simple questions. Sleep all right? Eggs okay? He showed Tommy how to feed the chickens without getting pecked. He spoke to Mary with a quiet respect, calling her ma'am. His kindness was a steady, quiet thing, like the heat from the wood stove. It made the secret in the drawer feel heavier. On the 4th morning, the mail came. Leroy, the ranch hand, brought it to the kitchen table where Jake was drinking coffee. There was the usual stack of letters about feed and machinery. And there was a newspaper from Cheyenne, Wyoming. Forgot to cancel that, Jake muttered, mostly to himself. He started to toss it aside, but a big headline on the front caught his eye. His whole body went still. The coffee mug in his hand stopped halfway to his mouth. Tommy, wiping down the counter, saw the change immediately. Jake's face, usually just serious, became like stone. His knuckles were white around the mug. Jake? Mary asked gently from her place at the table. Is something wrong? Jake did not answer. He slowly put the mug down. He picked up the newspaper and read. His eyes scanned the same lines over and over. Tommy stopped wiping. The air in the warm kitchen felt cold. Finally, Jake let out a long, slow breath. It sounded tired. He folded the paper so the headline was hidden and pushed it away. He looked at Mary, then at Tommy. His eyes were full of something dark. It was fear. There's something you should know, Jake said. His voice was rough. About me. You don't have to tell us anything, Mary said. I do, Jake said. He nodded at the folded paper. That's a story about a prison break over in Wyoming. One man got out. He paused as if the next words were hard to lift. His name is Ray Murdoch. He's my brother. Tommy's breath caught. Jake had a brother? A brother in prison? You never mentioned a brother, Mary said softly. I haven't seen him in 15 years, Jake said. He looked at the wall, but he was not seeing it. I joined the army. I left home. He was younger. He got mixed up with bad people after I was gone. He did a bad thing, an armed robbery. He went to prison for a long, long time. I am so sorry, Mary whispered. Jake shook his head. Don't be sorry for me. Be worried for you. He looked right at Tommy. Ray, he knows about this place from a long time ago. He knows this is where I'd be, if he's running and he has nowhere else to go." Jake trailed off. "You think he'll come here?" Tommy asked, his voice small. "I do," Jake said. The two words were heavy as bricks. "He'll want help, money, a place to hide. And Ray, when he's desperate, he's not a careful man. He's angry, at the world, at me." "Why at you?" Tommy asked. Jake finally looked down at his hands. "Because I left. He needed me, and I left. That's what he's always believed, that it's my fault." He stood up suddenly, his chair scraping on the floor. "I can't let that kind of trouble near you two. I brought you here to be safe." He started to pace, a short, tense path by the window. "I have to make a choice. I can stay, wait for him, try to talk him down, or deal with him." He stopped and looked at them. "Or I can take you both and we can leave. Go somewhere he can't find us, for a little while, until they catch him." Tommy's heart pounded. Leave? They had just found this safe place, this warm house, this man who fixed hinges and asked about their sleep. "This is your home," Mary said. "You can't run from your home." "It's not just my home anymore," Jake said, and his voice was fierce. "It's yours. Your safety is more important than this land or this house." Tommy thought about the deed in his drawer. He thought about the letters from Silas Green offering money to run away. Now Jake was talking about running away too, but for a scarier reason. "If we go," Tommy said, "what happens to the ranch?" "The hands can manage for a time," Jake said. But he didn't sound sure. "And if we stay?" Mary asked. Jake was quiet for a long time. "If we stay, I have to face him, and I don't know what that means. I don't know who he is anymore. I only know the boy I left behind. The man in that newspaper. He's a stranger with my brother's face." Tommy saw the guilt on Jake's face. It was the same weight Tommy used to carry, the feeling that every bad thing was his fault. He saw it in the lines around Jake's eyes. "We just got here," Tommy said, and he was surprised by his own words. Jake looked at him. The fear in his eyes softened, just a little. "I know, son." The kitchen was silent. The secret about the land did not seem so big anymore. Now there was a new secret, a man walking out of the past, coming right for them. The safe walls of the house felt thinner. The wide Montana sky outside the window seemed less like freedom and more like a place where anything or anyone could appear. The decision about Jake's brother was not made that day or the next. Jake watched the roads. Tommy watched Jake. The easy quiet of the ranch was gone, replaced by a waiting feeling. 3 days after the newspaper came, a different kind of trouble arrived. A long, shiny car, the color of charcoal, came up the ranch road. It did not belong. It kicked up dust and stopped right in front of the house. A man got out. He was dressed in a suit, smooth and gray like his car. He smoothed his hair and looked at the house, then at the barn, like he was adding up numbers in his head. He walked to the front door and knocked. Tommy answered. He was on his way to get more wood for the stove. "Hello, young man," the stranger said. He smiled. His teeth were very white. "Is Mrs. Mary Carter available? My name is Silas Green. I believe she's expecting me." Tommy's stomach dropped. The name from the letters was here, in a suit, on the porch. She's resting." "I won't take much of her time," Silas Green said. His smile stayed, but his eyes, a pale gray, looked past Tommy into the house. "It's a matter of important business." "Who is it, Tommy?" Mary called from the living room. Before Tommy could answer, Silas Green stepped inside. He took off his hat. "Mrs. Carter? Silas Green, from Billings. I wrote to you." He walked into the living room as if he owned it. Mary was in her wheelchair by the window. She looked small. She looked nervous. "Mr. Green, this is a surprise." "I was in the area," he said, lying smoothly. "Thought it was better to talk face to face. Much simpler." He glanced at Tommy. "Perhaps we could speak privately?" "My son stays," Mary said, and her voice found a little strength. "Of course." Silas sat on the edge of a chair without being asked. "Now, about my offer. The letters. I'm sure you've had time to think." "I have," Mary said. "And? It's a very generous offer. More than fair for a patch of dry land." "It is my patch of dry land," Mary said softly. "Exactly." Silas spread his hands. "And I want to make it work for you. That money could change your life. Proper medical care, a nice little house in town, Security for your boy here. He nodded at Tommy. Tommy stood by the door, frozen. The man's words sounded good. They sounded right. But his smile was like a mask. The land was my husband's, Mary said. It's important to us. Sentiment is a luxury, Mrs. Carter, Silas said. His voice was still pleasant, but it cooled. One you can't really afford. I'm being polite. I'm coming to you with a check. Others might not be so polite. There are legal paths, easements, mineral rights disputes. It can get messy and expensive. I'd hate for you to lose the land and get nothing for your trouble. He was threatening them. Tommy heard it clearly. The nice words were gone. The front door opened and banged shut. Jake stood in the doorway to the living room, his boots dusty. He had come from the barn. He looked at Silas Green, then at Mary's pale face. Everything all right in here? Jake asked. His voice was low. We're fine, Jake, Mary said quickly. This is Mr. Green. He's a businessman from Billings. Jake's eyes locked onto Silas. What's your business here? A private matter with Mrs. Carter, Silas said, standing up. He was shorter than Jake. Regarding a piece of property she owns. The Line Shack land, Jake said. He knew. Tommy could see he understood immediately. That's right, Silas said, surprised but recovering. I've made a substantial offer to purchase it. She doesn't want to sell, Jake said. It wasn't a question. I'm not sure she can afford not to sell, Silas replied. His polite mask was slipping. His eyes turned cold. This doesn't concern you, Mr. Ryder. Jake Ryder. This is my house. Everything in it concerns me. Jake took a step forward. He did not raise his voice, but the room felt smaller. You've said your piece. Now it's time for you to leave. Silas Green looked from Jake's hardened face to Mary's worried one. He forced his smile back on. Of course, no need for drama. Mrs. Carter, you have my number. My offer stands for 1 more week. After that, the situation changes. Think about your son's future. He nodded, put his hat on, and walked out. They watched through the window as his shiny car turned and drove away, leaving a cloud of dust. No one spoke for a full minute. The wind outside began to pick up, whistling under the eaves of the porch. He was threatening us, Tommy whispered. He was, Jake said. He walked to the window and looked at the sky. It was turning a thick, ugly gray. Storm's coming, a big one. Mary let out a shaky breath. I'm sorry, Jake. I should have told you about the letters. It's your land, Jake said. You don't have to be sorry. He turned to look at them. But that man is a vulture. He smells weakness. He won't go away. A gust of wind shook the window pane. The first heavy drop of rain hit the glass, then another. We have to decide about the land now, don't we? Tommy said. Jake nodded slowly. Before he makes the decision for you. He looked out at the darkening ranch. But right now, we have to get ready. This storm is going to trap everything here. The hands, the animals, us. He looked back at Tommy, his expression grave. Everything and everyone. The storm was not just rain. It was a wall of water and a howling wind that shook the walls of the ranch house. The lights flickered once, twice, then went out. Tommy jumped. Jake lit 2 oil lamps. The warm glow pushed back the deep gray of the afternoon. Outside, the world was a blur of rain and angry noise. The generator will kick on for the barn, Jake said, his voice calm in the chaos. The animals will be all right. We just have to ride it out here. Mary was wrapped in a blanket in her wheelchair. Tommy sat near her trying to read a book by lamplight, but the words wouldn't stick. Every boom of thunder made him flinch. He wasn't just scared of the storm. He was scared of the look on Jake's face. Jake stood by the front window, watching the driveway. He was waiting. For what? Tommy didn't want to know. Another figure was in the room. Silas Green. His fancy car had slid into a ditch a mile down the main road. He had stumbled, soaking wet, to the ranch house just as the worst of the rain began. Jake, following his code, had let him in. Now Silas sat in a dry chair, watching everyone with his cold, calculating eyes. He said the storm was an inconvenience. He said he had calls to make, but his phone had no signal. They were all trapped. Tommy, Mary, Jake, Silas, and 2 ranch hands, Leroy and Hank, who were playing cards at the kitchen table. A particularly fierce gust of wind slammed against the house. Then, through the howl, came another sound. Asterisk bang, bang, bang. It was not the wind. It was the sound of a fist pounding on the heavy front door. Everyone froze. The card game stopped. Jake's whole body went rigid. He looked at Mary and Tommy, a silent warning in his eyes. The pounding came again, harder. "Jake! Jake! You in there? It's me!" The voice was hoarse, cracked by the weather and something else. Desperation. Tommy saw the color drain from Jake's face. This was it. The thing he was waiting for. "Leroy Hank," Jake said quietly, not taking his eyes off the door. "Take Mary and Tommy into the kitchen. Now." "Jake, no," Mary started. "Now please," Jake said, his voice leaving no argument. The men moved quickly. They wheeled Mary back and Tommy followed, his legs weak. Silas Green did not move. He watched, interested like he was at a play. Jake waited until they were out of the direct line of the door. He took a deep breath. Then he walked to the door, turned the lock, and pulled it open. Wind and rain blew into the room. Standing on the porch was a man. He was drenched. His clothes were dirty and torn. He was thinner than Jake, with wild, scared eyes. He looked like a hungry animal. "Ray," Jake said. The word was flat. "Hey, brother," Ray Murdoch said. A shaky smile touched his lips. "Took you long enough. Can I come in? It's wet out here." "You can't stay here, Ray," Jake said. He didn't move from the doorway. "I got nowhere else to go. They're looking for me everywhere." Ray's smile vanished. His voice broke. I need a little help. Some food, some dry clothes. Then we can talk. We can figure this out, like we used to." "There's no we, Ray," Jake said. His voice was tired. "You need to turn yourself in." Ray's face twisted. "Turn myself in? After all this time? No. No way." He took a step forward. Jake blocked him with an arm across the doorway. "I have people in here I need to protect," Jake said. "You can't be here." Ray peered past Jake into the lamp-lit room. He saw Silas watching. He heard a noise from the kitchen. "Who's here? You got a new family, Jake? You replaced us?" "It's not like that." "It's exactly like that," Ray shouted over to the wind. Then his voice dropped to a pleading whisper. "Just let me in. Just for a minute. I'm your brother." Jake stared at him. Tommy, peeking from the kitchen doorway, saw the war on Jake's face. Guilt against duty. The past against the present. Slowly, Jake's arm lowered. He stepped back. Ray stumbled inside, dripping water on the floor. Jake quickly closed the door, shutting out the storm's roar. For a second, there was only the sound of Ray's ragged breathing. Then Ray looked around. He saw Silas. He saw Tommy in the kitchen doorway. He saw Mary in her wheelchair. A hard, bitter laugh escaped him. "Wow, a real nice setup you got." "Sit down, Ray," Jake said, pointing to a chair away from everyone. "Get warm, then you're leaving." Ray didn't sit. He was shivering. His eyes darted around the room, nervous, jumpy. Then his right hand went to his waist. He pulled his jacket aside. Tommy's breath caught. Stuck in the man's pants was the handle of a gun. "I'm not leaving, Jake," Ray said, his voice low and serious now. "Not without you. You're coming with me. We're getting out of this state, like we always said we would." The oil lamplight flickered over Jake's stony face. The danger from the past was no longer outside in the storm. It was inside the house. It was standing right in front of them, wet and desperate and armed. The safe walls felt like they were closing in. The gun did not come out. Ray just let his jacket fall back, letting them all see it was there. The message was clear. The room felt like it was holding its breath. "Ray," Jake said, his voice dangerously calm. "Put that away. You don't want to do this." "I don't know what I want," Ray shouted. He ran a hand through his wet hair. "I just know I can't go back. And you're living in this nice house with these nice people." He gestured wildly at Tommy and Mary. "You left me to rot." "I didn't put you in prison, Ray," Jake said, but there was a weight in his words. "You made your choices after I was gone. You were supposed to be here." Ray's eyes were wide, pleading and angry at the same time. "You were my big brother. You left me alone with him." He didn't have to say who him was, their father. From her wheelchair, Mary spoke. Her voice was soft, but it cut through the tension. "Hurting more people won't fix an old hurt, son." Ray looked at her, surprised to be addressed. "This ain't your business, lady." "It became my business when you walked through that door," Mary said. She didn't look away from him. Silas Green cleared his throat. He had been watching silently, his eyes sharp. He saw an opportunity. "This is all very dramatic," he said. He stood up slowly, keeping his hands visible. "But perhaps, Mrs. Carter, while the family reunion is happening, you and I could conclude our own business? A simple signature. It would give you the means to go somewhere safer." Jake turned his head slowly toward Silas. "You think this is the time?" "There's never a good time for difficult decisions," Silas said smoothly. "But often the best time is when other options are disappearing." He looked pointedly at Ray. Ray laughed, a harsh, broken sound. "You selling something, mister? What's he talking about, Jake?" "It's nothing," Jake said. "It's not nothing," Mary said. She looked at Jake, her face full of apology. "I need to say it. Now." She took a deep breath. "The land with our old shack. It's mine. I own it. Mr. Green wants to buy it. He's been offering money. A lot of money." Jake absorbed this. He nodded slowly, not angry, just putting pieces together. "I see. But she won't sign," Silas said, frustration edging into his polite tone. "Even though that money could solve all her problems." "Maybe her problem isn't money," Jake said, his eyes still on Mary. Tommy couldn't stay quiet anymore. The words burst out of him. "He threatened us. He said he'd take the land and we'd get nothing." Ray looked at Silas with new interest. "A shakedown, huh? You're no better than me, suit." "This is legal business," Silas snapped. "It's bullying," Tommy said, his voice shaking. He stepped closer to the main room. "You saw we were alone and you tried to scare my mom." Jake looked at Tommy. He saw the boy's fear and his bravery. He looked back at Ray. "You see this? You see this kid? He's been taking care of his mother all by himself. He's 13 years old. He has more guts and more honor in his little finger than you and this vulture combined. And you want me to walk away from that? To go back to being your brother in crime?" Ray flinched as if struck. "I'm not asking you to rob a bank. I'm asking you to help me. And I am helping you." Jake's voice finally rose, filled with years of pain. "By telling you to stop. The best thing you can do is put that gun down and let me call the sheriff. You serve your time. You get right. This running, this threatening people. This is the end of the road, Ray. Can't you see that?" The storm raged outside. Inside, the air was thick with old pain and new fears. Ray's hand twitched near his waist. Silas watched, calculating how to use this new anger. Mary reached out and took Tommy's hand, holding it tight. All the secrets were out now. The secret of the land, the secret of Jake's guilt, the secret of Silas's threats. They were all trapped in the lamplight together, and the only way out was through a storm of feelings that had been building for 15 years. Ray did not see it. All he saw was his brother choosing strangers over him. The pain on his face turned into something hard and ugly. "So that's it," Ray said, his voice flat. "You picked them." "I'm not picking, Ray. I'm staying right here." "No," Ray said. He shook his head. "You're coming with me, right now." His hand closed around the gun handle. He pulled it from his waist. "Ray, don't," Jake yelled, stepping forward. Silas Green moved at the same time. He saw his chance. He rushed to Mary's side and pulled a folded paper and a pen from his inside jacket pocket. "Sign it now, Mrs. Carter, before this gets worse. This is your only way out. Get away from her," Tommy shouted. He tried to step between Silas and his mother. Everything happened at once. Ray raised the gun, not pointing it at anyone, just holding it up in the air. "We're leaving, Jake. Get your coat." Jake lunged. He didn't go for the gun. He tackled his brother around the middle, driving him back toward the front door. They crashed into a small table. An oil lamp wobbled, fell, and smashed on the wooden floor. The burning oil spread in a sudden pool of fire. "Fire!" Hank yelled. Ray and Jake wrestled on the floor near the flames. The gun skittered away under a chair. Ray was screaming now, all words gone, just raw sound. Jake was trying to pin him. "The barn!" Leroy shouted. He was pointing. The fallen lamp had rolled. A line of fire was snaking across the floor, following a crack in the wood, heading straight for the door that connected the house to the covered walkway to the barn. Silas was still shoving the paper at Mary. "Sign it!" "No!" Mary said. She slapped the paper away. Tommy didn't think. He grabbed the blanket from his mother's lap and threw it on the small fire on the living room floor, smothering it. But the line of fire was already through the door and into the dry, hay-strewn walkway. Jake saw it. He got one arm free and yelled at his men, "Hank, the walkway, cut it off." He turned back to Ray, trying to get him under control. Hank and Leroy ran to the door, stomping at the flames. But the wind from the storm was howling through the covered passage. It sucked the fire forward like a breath. In seconds, the fire jumped from the walkway into the main barn, where bales of hay and bags of grain were stored. An orange glow lit up the window next to the front door. It was not lightning. "The barn's on fire!" Leroy yelled, running back in, his face smudged with smoke. Jake finally pinned Ray's arms. He looked toward the barn window, his face filled with horror. The animals, his ranch. Ray saw his brother's attention break. With a furious twist, he broke free. He scrambled to his feet and ran not for the front door, but for the door to the walkway. He was running toward the fire. "Ray, no!" Jake roared. He jumped up and ran after him. Tommy watched, frozen, as the two brothers disappeared into the smoke-filled passage. The barn was at the other end, and it was getting brighter and brighter with a terrible, growing light. Silas Green stared. His business deal was forgotten. His mouth hung open. "They're both in there," he said, as if he couldn't believe it. The wind howled. The fire roared, swallowing the sound of the rain. Through the window, Tommy could see the shapes of the two men inside the barn, silhouetted against the flames. They were still struggling. The fire was all around them. The roof of the barn began to glow from the inside. The heat hit Tommy's face through the window. The two men were shadows in the orange hell of the barn. They were still fighting. "Jake!" Tommy screamed, but his voice was lost in the roar of the fire and the storm. Without a single thought, without a plan, Tommy ran. He ran toward the door to the walkway. Hank grabbed his arm. "You can't go in there, kid. It's an inferno." Tommy yanked his arm free. He did not say a word. He just ran, into the smoke-filled passage. The heat was like a physical wall. He dropped to his knees where the air was cooler. He crawled forward, the wood hot under his hands. He pushed through the door into the barn. The noise was terrible. The fire crackled and snapped. The wind screamed through the open loft. Horses were kicking in their stalls, screaming in panic. Jake had Ray pinned against a post. Ray was hitting him, but Jake was not hitting back. He was just trying to hold him. "Jake!" Tommy yelled, coughing. Jake turned his head. His eyes went wide with horror. "Tommy, get out! Get out now! The whole side is on fire!" Tommy shouted, pointing. "The back door, the small door by the tack room." Ray saw Tommy. He stopped struggling for a second. "The kid, you sent the kid in here?" "I didn't send him," Jake yelled. "Tommy, go!" A beam above them groaned. Embers rained down. Tommy did not go. He stood up, his small frame outlined by fire. He looked right at Ray. "He stayed for me. Now you have to come with me." For a moment, Ray just stared. He saw the boy's dirty face, his wide, scared eyes that were not backing down. He saw Jake looking at Tommy with a fear he never had for himself. "Come on!" Tommy screamed. It was not a request. It was an order. He turned and ran, not back the way he came, but deeper into the barn, toward the small rear door used for bringing in hay. The path was a tunnel of flame and smoke. Jake let go of Ray. "Follow him, now!" He shoved his brother. This time, Ray listened. They both ran after Tommy, crouching low. Tommy reached the small door. He pushed. It was stuck. He pushed again with all his weight. Jake slammed into it beside him. The door flew open. Clean, cold, rain-filled air rushed in. "Go, go, go!" Jake yelled. He pushed Tommy through first, then he pushed Ray. As Jake jumped through after them, a huge, groaning crack split the air. They fell into the mud and the pouring rain. Tommy rolled over and looked back. The center of the barn roof collapsed inward in a huge explosion of sparks and flame. The place where they had just been standing was gone. The three of them lay in the mud, gasping. The rain soaked them, washing the soot from their faces. Ray sat up first. He looked at the burning barn. Then he looked at Tommy, who was coughing, trying to get his breath. He looked at Jake, who was checking the boy for burns. "You came back in," Ray said to Tommy, his voice hollow. "You came back in for us." Tommy nodded, still coughing. "I couldn't leave you in there." "You could have," Ray said. He looked from Tommy to Jake. A strange, broken understanding dawned on his face. This boy, this stranger, had risked his life. For both of them. Even for him. Jake helped Tommy to his feet. He kept a hand on his shoulder, making sure he was steady. He looked at his brother, standing in the rain before the fire. The fight was gone from Ray's eyes. It had burned out in the barn. All that was left was exhaustion and a dawning, awful shame. He just stood there, watching his past burn, while the rain and the boy's courage washed over him. The rain did what the men could not. It fell in sheets, drenching the burning barn. The roaring fire became a hissing, steaming pile of black wood and smoke. The main house was safe. People came, not just the ranch hands. The storm had passed, and the flashing lights of a sheriff's car and a fire truck from Mercy bounced off the wet ground. Neighbors from other farms came too, in trucks and old cars. They saw the smoke and came to help. Tommy stood with his mother, a blanket around his shoulders. He watched as the sheriff, a man named Roy with a kind face, talked quietly to Jake. Jake pointed to Ray, who was sitting on the wet ground by a fence post. Ray's head was in his hands. He was not fighting anymore. Jake walked over to Ray. He stood in front of him for a moment. Then he sat down in the mud next to him. "It's over, Ray," Jake said, his voice tired. Ray nodded without looking up. "The kid, he ran into the fire." "I know." "Why'd he do that?" Ray asked, his voice cracking. "Because he's got more heart than sense," Jake said. There was no anger in his voice. "And because he knew it was the right thing." Ray finally looked at his brother. His eyes were red. "I'm so tired, Jake." "I know you are." Jake put a hand on his brother's shoulder. "You gotta go with Sheriff Roy now. You gotta finish your time, the right way." Ray took a shaky breath. He nodded again. "Okay." Jake helped him stand up. He walked him to the sheriff's car. Sheriff Roy opened the back door. Ray paused before getting in. He turned and looked at Jake. "I'm sorry," Ray whispered. "It was for everything. For the past. For today." "Me too," Jake said. Ray got in the car. The door closed. Tommy watched it drive away, the red lights fading into the gray morning. As the car left, Silas Green saw his moment. The crowd was busy helping, looking at the damage. He walked quickly over to Mary, who was still in her wheelchair near the house. "Mrs. Carter," he said, his voice low. He had the paper in his hand again. "This is your last chance. Sign now. After all this destruction, you'll need the money more than ever." Mary looked up at him. She did not look weak anymore. She looked strong. "No, Mr. Green. Be reasonable." "I am being reasonable," Mary said, her voice clear. "I am not selling my land to you. Not today. Not ever." Before Silas could argue, a man stepped forward. It was old Mr. Peterson, who owned the farm next door. Then his wife stepped up. Then Leroy and Hank. Then a few more neighbors. They formed a small half-circle around Mary's chair. "I think the lady said no," Mr. Peterson said, crossing his arms. Silas Green looked at their faces. They were not rich, their clothes were muddy, but their expressions were solid. They were not moving. "This is none of your concern," Silas said, but his smooth tone was gone. "Everything in Mercy is our concern," said Mrs. Peterson. "Now, I believe your car is stuck down the road. We can pull it out for you, and then you can be on your way, for good." Silas Green looked from face to face. He saw no fear. He saw no greed. He saw a wall. He slowly folded his paper and put it back in his jacket. He smoothed his hair, which was ruined by the rain. He said nothing. He turned and walked down the muddy driveway toward the road. Tommy watched him go. The man in the suit who wanted to buy their future just walked away, defeated by a few simple people who decided to stand together. The sun broke through the clouds, a pale gold light spreading over the wet ranch. The barn was a loss, but the house stood, the people stood, and for the first time, Tommy felt like he was one of them. The next days were quiet. The black scar where the barn had been was a reminder, but the air felt clean. Tommy woke up each morning and the first thing he felt was not fear. It was calm. He was helping Mary with her breakfast when Jake came into the kitchen. He had a piece of paper in his hand. It was the deed to Mary's land. "I found this in the house," Jake said, placing it gently on the table. "After everything, I figured you'd want it back." Mary looked at the old paper. She did not pick it up. "Thank you, Jake." I've been thinking about that land. You don't have to think about it alone, Jake said, pulling out a chair. Not anymore. Tommy sat down too. He listened. I am not going to sell it to a man like Silas Green, Mary said, her voice firm. That money would have come with a shadow, but the land should be used. It should be part of something good. What are you thinking? Jake asked. I'm thinking that my piece and your piece are right next to each other, Mary said. Maybe they shouldn't be separate anymore. Maybe we could use my land for the ranch, for grazing, or for something new you need. Jake was quiet for a moment. That's a generous offer, Mary, but that's your property. It's just dirt, Mary said, smiling softly. Unless it helps the people you care about, then it has meaning. I want it to help this place, to help Tommy's home. Tommy felt a warmth spread in his chest. His home. We could make it official, Jake said slowly. A partnership. The land stays in your name. The ranch uses it. We share what comes from it. That sounds like a plan, Mary said. She reached out and put her hand over Tommy's. Is that all right with you? Tommy nodded. He could not find the words. It felt right. It felt like building something, not losing it. A few days later, Tommy was outside with Jake. They were cleaning up some of the smaller burnt wood from the barn site. The work was hard, but Tommy did not mind. His body felt strong. Jake stopped and leaned on his shovel. He looked at Tommy. You've been a big help. Not just now, through all of it. Tommy shrugged, looking at the ground. You saved us first. Maybe we saved each other, Jake said. He took a deep breath. Tommy, I need to ask you something. A serious question. Okay, Tommy said, looking up. Your mother and you have a place here, for as long as you want it. You know that, right? Yes, Tommy said. But I want to ask it plain, Jake said. His rough hands fidgeted with the shovel handle. How would you feel if you and your mother stayed here at the ranch forever? Not as guests, as family. My family. The world seemed to get very quiet. Tommy heard the wind in the grass. He saw the honest hope and a little fear in Jake's eyes. This big, strong man was asking him for permission. Tommy's throat felt tight. He thought of the cold shack. He thought of his mother's smile now. He thought of Jake teaching him to fix a fence, his low voice explaining things. He thought of running into the fire and knowing he had to because Jake was in there. Yes, Tommy said. The word was simple and true. I would like that, more than anything. A smile broke across Jake's face. It was a real smile, one Tommy had rarely seen. It changed his whole face. Good, Jake said, his voice thick. That's real good. That evening, the three of them ate dinner at the kitchen table. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink. Jake asked me today if we would stay forever, Tommy said to his mother, as family. Mary looked at Jake, her bright eyes shining. She reached across the table and took Jake's hand. You have given us everything. You gave me something too, Jake said. He looked at Tommy. A reason to stop looking back. The ranch was not just a place for work anymore. It was a place where a woman's secret land would help grow new grass. It was a place where a man's guilt finally found peace. It was a place where a boy was no longer just a caretaker, but a son. Outside, under the big Montana sky, the land stretched out wide and open. It was a place for second chances, built not on grand gestures, but on simple words. My mom can't walk anymore. You're not alone. Yes, I would like that. It was a family, found where they least expected it, and stronger for the finding.